According to a survey from Junior Achievement USA, 60% of teens want to launch their own businesses instead of working traditional jobs. The survey also revealed that 45% of teens want to learn from business owners. Now, Forbes has made 10 videos that showcase entrepreneurial individuals from Annie Malone to Fred Harvey to George Eastman to Malcolm McLean. Watch this.
What are the traits of great achievers? Their successes and also their failures provide inspiration and lessons for us all. Many of us seek to emulate the great innovators like Steve Jobs, but achievers come in all shapes and sizes. Some make it early, while others may work for years without recognition. The one thing all of them share is that their careers seldom follow a straight path. The road to success is littered with setbacks. And a great accomplishment does not guarantee a charmed life. Some of the individuals in these stories achieve great things, only to later experience devastating failure. The entrepreneurs in our stories illustrate the power of human creativity to solve problems and bring about progress, but ingenuity alone doesn't make that happen. This program is not just about individual achievement, but our system of free enterprise that makes achievement possible. I'm Steve Forbes.
Please welcome the editor-in-chief of Forbes, Steve Forbes. Steve, thank you for coming on. Steve, before we go over these 10 entrepreneurs, I want to tell you a little story and I want you to react to it. You remember the Reagan recession? I go to a party given by one of my buddies who's a bankruptcy lawyer. And I tried to say this as gently as I could. I didn't want to offend him, Steve. And I said, does it bother you that when times are worst, you do better? That when there's a recession, you make more money because your clients go into bankruptcy? He said, no. He said, as you just now said, these people are accustomed to setbacks and they come back. Virtually everybody I represent has had a business failure before, but they come back and they come back bigger and better and stronger than ever.
Well, that's true about entrepreneurship. It's almost some cases like baseball, whereas, in baseball, if you are successful 3 or 4 times out of 10 at the plate, you're doing very well indeed. And that's how you get ahead, through experimentation, whether it's in the laboratory or in the marketplace. And these people have a vision, and even if they get setbacks, they keep coming back. Henry Ford, for example, went bankrupt twice before he finally achieved success with the original Model A over 120 years ago. So it's that kind of grit that I think people need to keep in mind, that you don't have to succeed the first time, or at a young age. What's amazing is that entrepreneurs today, the average age is 39. So if you're not winning the Nobel Prize by the age of 21 or a billionaire by the age of 22, as Yogi Berra said, it ain't over till it's over. And what these people, I think, are demonstrating, the ones that we illustrate in this achievement series, is that kind of grit, stick-to-itiveness, and also, even if you succeed once, you may then fail and have to come back and succeed again. And so it's that kind of jagged path that people need to realize to achieve success. It's not permanent, and you have to keep satisfying the marketplace, which is people.
Steve, the percentage of teens who want to start their own businesses, is that up from years past?
I think so. I think that people are not turned on by the idea of going to an organization and staying there forever. I think it may have been, too, when people had to stay home during the pandemic, especially young people who kind of got itchy, probably stirred them a little bit to want to go out and try to achieve something. And so I think it's very American and very encouraging that a lot of young people want to give it a try. And even if they end up going with a regular company, one of the other things that comes out in research is that the average age is 39 for an entrepreneur, which means many of these people already work for a large company. They saw how things worked and didn't work, right, and then they saw an opportunity and went and tried it. And it takes sometimes several years before you know whether you really achieved success, whether this enterprise is going to succeed. So it's vision, but also stick-to-itiveness.
I practiced law for a little under 3 years, Steve. And then I left to start a little company placing lawyers with law firms and corporations. I ran it for 14 years and then I sold it. But I started my company when I was 28 years old.
Well, that goes to show you can do it at any age, and you experience firsthand an appreciation, which we hope comes through with these short 3-minute biographies. And that is things just don't happen. There's a lot of work that goes involved in making things happen. Too many politicians, I think, today and others don't appreciate what it takes to make things come to pass. And it's that I think comes through in these videos. And in your case, you practice. You decided, hey, I see an opening here that goes beyond the practice of law itself, helping other lawmakers. I mean, the law firms. You know, my grandfather started our company over 100 years ago. He was an immigrant to this country, one of 10 children, grade school education. He always wanted to be a business writer and became one. And he decided he just didn't want to write about entrepreneurs. He decided he wanted to become one himself. So he started Forbes magazine.
Steve, George McGovern, of course, ran for president in 1972. Probably at the time, the most left-wing president, I think, candidate we've ever had in America. He loses. Then he decides to use all of his money from speeches, and starts a little bed and breakfast in Connecticut. It went bankrupt. It went bust. He wrote a piece in the Wall Street Journal and says, "I only wish I had started a business when I was in the Senate. I would have realized the rules, regulations, the costs, the burdens that I place on entrepreneurs make it very, very difficult for us to succeed. I really wish I'd had that kind of experience before I became a politician." Hello?
Well, what is sad is not his revelation, but that others didn't embrace that revelation. His credentials on the left were absolutely impeccable. So when he said, there's a lot of stuff you don't know about that goes in to make these things come to pass, none of the far left was paying attention at all. And so they take an economy for granted. You know, when I was a youngster, they took us to a dairy once because they wanted us to realize that the milk just didn't show up on the shelf or from the milkman. You had to raise cows, you feed the cows, you had to milk the cows, you had to pasteurize the milk, you had to bottle the milk, you had to deliver the milk, and get the cream and everything else. So you saw as a youngster firsthand, just those are very basic steps into making something happen. It just doesn't magically show up on the store shelf or magically show up as a service that you can just tap into.
Let's go over some of these entrepreneurs. Let's go over all 10 of them and give me about 30 seconds or less from each one of them. And again, as I said, some of them I don't know. A.J. Giannini, that one I know. He's Bank of America?
That's right. He was in the fruit business, became very, very successful, son of immigrants. And so he went on a bank board when he retired. And what happened was that he said to the bank, you know, this huge immigrant community in Northern California, why don't we serve these people? And the bank said, are you crazy? Banks only serve the well-to-do. Who are these people? So Giannini left the board, started his own bank called Bank of Italy, broke every rule of banking. It advertised, it went for people from immigrant communities in their own language. He made loans that no one else would make based on character, figuring out these people will pay you back, charge normal rates of interest. The original name was the Bank of Italy. But then when he acquired a bank in Los Angeles, it had the name of Bank America, and he decided to change the name of Bank of Italy to Bank of America. And by serving consumers, by serving the rising middle class, he created then the largest bank in the world. And so again, turning something that was rarefied for the rich, he showed everyone could participate in banking and made loans that made possible people getting devices, cars, mortgages, in a way that other banks did not. And by the way, one quick story, I know you only want short thumbnail sketches on these people, but in 1906, San Francisco was devastated by the earthquake. And Giannini had the presence of mind to realize the city was going to burn. And so he got a couple of wagons, got all the cash. In those days, you didn't have electronic banking, so it was cash and gold, put them on wagons, covered it with fruit so that people wouldn't necessarily steal it, went out of the city burned. As soon as the embers started to calm down, so to speak, he went back into the city. He realized that the intensity of the fires would make it impossible for banks to get into their vaults. They would be melted shut. So he had the cash, the gold. He went on the pier of San Francisco, set up a table, put the cash on the table, and said, any merchant, come here, we're going to make loans and start to rebuild. Now imagine the presence of mind in the face of a disaster, seeing opportunity of service. And that's the key thing with Giannini. Service, he did well, although he never paid himself very much. He died with less money than he did when he left the fruit business because he felt that fortunes controlled you rather than the other way around. But he epitomized, you provide services to people who people never thought of before, and by golly, everyone benefits. It's not zero sum.
Got a question for you. Are you concerned with stock market volatility?
Markets closing in on their worst year since the financial crisis.
Since 2020, the Dow closed down more than 1,100 points.
Financial markets had their worst day since the start of the pandemic.
Do you really trust this economy?
The U.S. economy could be headed for a recession.
Tonight, the alarming spike in inflation soaring to its highest level in nearly 40 years.
What if you can invest in a portfolio with a high fixed rate of return that's not correlated to the stock market? Well, you can turn your monthly income on or off, compound it, whatever you choose, and get this, there is no loss of principal if you need your money back, and absolutely no fees. Just log on to investyrefy.com. Folks, I personally invest with my own money with YRefi. So log on to investyrefy.com or call 888-YREFI24. That's 888-YREFI24. Annie Malone. I don't know who Annie Malone is.
Annie Malone was a daughter of a freed slave. She was born in 1869. Her parents died at a young age. She never finished high school, but she had a keen interest in the chemistry, keen interest in putting products together. So she invented hair products for the African American communities, especially women, and became a millionaire, which is today a billionaire. Now remember, the racism then was very real, very intense, and women weren't even allowed to vote. Yet she built a hugely successful business. She had 1.75,000 agents here and around the world selling her products from door to door. And the lesson of her was not only facing adversity and succeeding by meeting the needs of a marketplace, but also her success meant opportunity for tens of thousands of other people. Tens of thousands of women also had a chance to improve their lot in life because of what Annie Malone did. And people like C.J. Walker, who also became a millionaire, she trained her, and she started a successful business for hair products and tools and the like. And again, your success is other people's success, and you provide a model for others.
Now, I've heard, of course, of Madam C.J. Walker. I didn't realize that Annie Malone preceded her.
That's right. And C.J. Walker Madam Walker got her inspiration and became a competitor by what she learned from Annie Malone. And it's unknown today, that aspect.
Frank Woolworth.
Frank Woolworth demonstrated that you can provide quality products at a low price to everyone. He had an incident as a youngster with his brother. They had 50 cents. They went to a store to buy a scarf for their mother. The store owner said, get out of here. Come back when you have money to buy a real gift. And Woolworth, young age, told his brother, I'm going to start a store where 50 cents can buy you a lot. And that's exactly what he did. So again, turning something that only a few people could afford and providing products that everyone could afford. I mean, Woolworth, once hundreds and hundreds of stores, Woolworth was a virtual shopping mall under one roof. It was fantastic. As a youngster, I had great times going in there, low prices. You could always buy interesting stuff, not to mention turtles and parakeets and other kinds of things.
Fred Harvey.
Fred Harvey was really, we think of Starbucks today, we think of Hilton Hotels and Marriott's and all that kind of thing. Fred Harvey was the pioneer in that. He was the first to establish a real chain of restaurants and hotels. Back in the 1800s, late 1800s, he was an immigrant from this country, from England, and he got the idea that on the railroads those days, when you stopped at stations, they served slop. They even served food that was left over from previous meals, because they figured they wouldn't see you again. He established restaurants that provided quality food very quickly, and also trained people, created a culture. The Harvey girls became legends out west. because a lot of single girls from Midwestern towns got an opportunity to advance in life and also perhaps find a husband. And in fact, in the 1940s, Judy Garland, the great actress, made a movie called The Harvey Girls. So Harvey demonstrated you could change the culture of the West. He helped tame the West. You had to behave in his restaurants, and they had high quality. By the way, for example, coffee, he had urns out in the open, and he made sure that every 2 hours, whether customers used the previous coffee or not, the coffee was emptied and a new fresh batch was put out there and people could see it. So again, quality, service, great customer base.
Steve, we have time for one more out of the remaining ones, and they are George Eastman, Henry Kaiser, Herbert Hoover, J.R. Simplot, Malcolm McLean, Ruth Handler. Whom do you want to talk about?
Let's quickly hit Malcolm McLean, very unknown, although the mother of Barbie is also very Ruth Handler. Malcolm McLean was a trucker, and he got the idea, as others did, why can't we put a truck on a freighter and move freight that way? Sounds very easy. The boxes, they call it, containers, sounds very easy. But designing them and doing all of that, he pioneered that back in the 1950s and faced ferocious opposition from union leaders, from harbors that didn't want to change. And freight in those days was physical labor. You had to load the ships, unload the ships, a lot of pilferage and a lot of breakage. And so when he invented successfully the box, that enabled trade to grow between the mid-1980s and early part of the century fourfold, made possible the electronic devices we had, because you could have these sophisticated supply chains because of the speed, and he reduced the cost of shipping by as much as 95% with the box. And by the way, he then sold the business, then went back in the business and failed. But like a true entrepreneur, he came back again and was starting another business at the age of 87. But then he died, and on the day they had his funeral, the container ships around the world tooted their horns in his honor, because he created this whole massive shipping industry.
Steve, how can people watch these 10 videos?
They're on IZZIT, IZZITT, IZZIT.org. And it's a nonprofit platform that provides educational information to educators and students. But so you can find it there, and also on YouTube. Just type in Steve Forbes Achievement, and you'll find it on YouTube as well. So between IZZIT, unusual name, but a memorable name, .org, IZZIT.org, and /Forbes, IZZIT.org/Forbes, or on YouTube. And you can find these very interesting 3-minute videos. And not only do they provide biographies, but also lessons. Like Annie Malone, her success provided opportunities for tens of thousands of others.
Steve, your magazine has all sorts of quotes from people, quotes about money. One of my favorite ones is by W. Somerset Maugham in his book Of Human Bondage. He said, money is the sixth sense, without which full use of the other five is not possible.
Money makes it possible for us to interact with each other, create resources with each other. It's like weights and measures. When we have something that's reliable, we can trust each other. I don't have to know you, but with the medium of trustworthy money, we can do things together in ways that you couldn't do before. So when it's done right, money creates trust and enables us to create prosperity by creating resources where none existed before.
Steve Forbes, Editor-in-Chief, Forbes Magazine. Steve, thank you so much for coming on. God bless.
Thank you. Good luck, Larry.
Thank you. Now, I know you love the show, so hit that like button. Also, hit that subscribe button. We want to get our subscriptions up. And scroll down, you'll see where you can get on our mailing list. Why? Because believe it or not, from time to time, YouTube has issues with our feed. I don't know why, but to make sure you don't miss any of them, you got to be on our mailing list. Also, you see that donate button? Click that, throw a little something in the tip jar. Make sure we can continue to giving you candid, hard-hitting programming. Larry with epoch.com, Larry with epoch.com. I'm Larry Elder. This has been the Larry Elder Show for Epoch Times. Remember, we've got a country to save. I'll see you next time.